What's up, my noobs? Coming at you again with another manga review that I think you might enjoy. Now, of course, you know that I'm an Isekai whore, and I love me some Isekais, but there's one thing I do notice that sometimes becomes a bore. Every Isekai seems to be stuck in a fantasy world of swords and magic. But you know what's really needed to spice up that life? You need an ultimate cheat that'll help you win when going into an Isekai world. What was that, you might ask? Guns! Small gun, big gun, fast shooting guns.
魔法じゃないの?
誰が? イエーイ! 物事何でも速攻解決!
銃で
That's right, folks. Isekais need to have a few guns added to them, and I have luckily found an Isekai that does just that. Now, the closest English title that I could find for this Isekai is The Case of the Stupid FPS Player Falls into Another World. In this manga, people play VR games that are MMOs. Most of the time they play usually the big space age, military, kind of like the Call of Duty type of games. Your main character is a gentleman that goes by the name of Schwartz, and at least that's his character name. One day, while chilling into his usual game world, he's hopping around, he's shooting monsters, he accidentally falls off the edge of the map. Now, if you've ever done that in video games, you know usually you die and respawn at the closest save point. But in his case, he wakes up in a field of an unknown origin. And now he tries to check in his status screen. He tries to log out. He can't. He starts running around, and he notices something that's kind of particular. This game is so real. In fact, it's so real when he accidentally swallows a butterfly, he can taste it, he can feel the texture and all, and he comes to realize, this isn't right. Now, luckily for him, like I stated earlier, a lot of his status is still working. In fact, his normal combat abilities are still in place. He still has access to his guns, he still has access to his armory, and he still has the ability to use the enemy detection ability that's around. This is when he finds a group of goblins that are carrying what looks to be a very young girl. Now, of course, he has played video games and he's read stories, so he knows what's going to happen to this girl. And of course, if any of you have seen the first episode of Goblin Slayer, you know for a fact what's going to happen. So our boy Schwartz decides to do the smart thing, the heroic thing. He decides to go in and save the girl. Now, in most fantasy adventures, a group of goblins would be very difficult for a solo player. But as I stated earlier, our boy still has access to all his weaponry. So he pulls out a gun and he goes on the rampage. And I mean, he kills all the goblins and saves this young lady. Now, the interesting thing about this world is he apparently cannot understand anything that they're saying. So, luckily, he does have a universal translator thing, but it's not like the Star Trek one where it goes back and forth. When he turns it on, he's able to understand what the girl is saying, but she can't understand him. So, one of the first things he has to do during this manga, he's actually learning how to speak their language, which I find is kind of a unique twist because most of the time in most isekais or any fantasy adventures that I read, if they don't understand, it's just a simple wave of the magic wand and boom, you can speak the language. So I kind of like the fact that he's got to learn on this. Now this manga goes through the basic route. Yes, he's a foreigner in this land and he has access to guns, but he still needs to basically take care of himself and eat and all that, so he does what most people do, joins an adventure guild. Now, if you've ever played any video games that involve guns, you realize that having to resupply your weapons does cost money. Now, he's not able to access the money portion in this world. He does still have access to the store. Luckily, he does find out that the crystals that monsters drop when they're defeated can be converted, so he can continue using that. And which is a good thing because thanks to that store he still somehow has access to, he can get anything. And I mean anything. There's body armor, there's gun, there's motorcycles. Hell, there's even an armored vehicle that he can get. Hell, claymores he uses, and let's face it, Nobody in this world knows what a claymore is, and it helps take out the monsters. The other unique thing that Schwartz does while in this manga is he come to realize that the map making of the dungeons are crude, and I mean scribble crude. Fifth graders can do better. Thanks to him still having access to his map ability, he actually gets this neat little trick where he takes like the map thing, he lays it down on paper, and he literally just traces the map, which becomes very popular to the point where people want to know how he does it, and he even gets hired to map out locations during big adventures. There is one thing that I found very unique about this manga, because in a lot of adventure mangas, when your main character teams up with someone, usually that team survives. In this one, he actually stays solo because there's one point in this manga where he does team up with a group of adventurers to take on a nest of harpies. Unfortunately, at the end of that, half of the team is killed, and he really takes that to an effect to where it bothers him. So he just tries to stay as solo as he can. This was a very interesting manga that I found because, like I said, it's an isekai. It is in a world where there is swords and magic, but our main character has a gun. And let's face it, swords, magic, and bow and arrows are nice, but if your boy can pull out an AR-15 and a P90 and wipe out a group of goblins just like that, I'm sorry, he's kind of have the advantage. I'd like to see where this goes because there are starting to show hints that he might be able to get back because there's a dungeon that they're currently going through at where the manga is right now, and there are things in there that he sees that come from his world. Wheelchairs, medical beds, a train, a subway train. And he's quite confused. What are these dungeons? Why is it showing stuff from my world? Is there a way for me to get back? I want to know, is he going to be able to get back? And more importantly, if he can, will he be able to get back to his body, and is it still alive? Because he spends a lot of time in this new world, and if this is his new body that his mind is in, what happened to his old body? Is it going to be like that SAO thing where if it wasn't taken care of, it's dead? Who knows? Maybe he's alive. Maybe it's like Log Horizon where their mind's in there and they're separated from their bodies and they're different. Not sure. I kind of want to know. But, I'm really here just for the guns. Well, folks, this is my manga that I wanted to bring to you today. It was something a little different. I know I love isekais, but some people have been saying that I should find different isekais, or the one biggest complaint I saw was, oh, it's another isekai, magic. Ooh, well, here's something where your main character doesn't use magic. He uses bullets. Folks, I'm the Noob. Thank you for listening to me babble on, and I'll catch y'all next time. See ya!